Hi guys, welcome back to another LinkedIn Live, and today I'm chatting with Dr Natalie Flatt again after a pretty hectic New Year's Eve and Christmas period.
How are you, Tom?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, well, it's probably, as we were just saying, it's probably a perfect topic, isn't it, today? Remotivating yourself into 2021.
Absolutely, yeah. Can you tell us really quickly what happened to you over Christmas and New Year's?
Oh, we got stuck in Sydney, Tom. So we drove right into the hotspot because Santa had already visited Sydney. And we didn't really want to fight the Grinch. So we had to make, because we had so much decision making left in us, come the 20th of December. So we decided to take the risk and go up to, Sydney for a couple of weeks and, watch what was going on every time. And yeah, New Year's Eve, the big red button was pushed, which then prevented us to get to the regional areas. And we had to come home and spend some 14 days more of quality time together as a family. It's great.
Yeah, I love it. And, just to share my experience as well, we were in northern New South Wales and we needed to get out of there. So we actually went up to Brisbane to where my father-in-law lives, and then like a week later, the same thing happened there. So we were literally just running away from COVID for 3 weeks. It felt, and then home. So yeah, kind of. I thought that would be worth sharing, and I know a lot of people that might be listening would have similar stories where over the break they definitely had a lot of time, but maybe they don't feel like they had the real break that they pictured in their head. And we all fantasize over turning the new page in a new year and going, all right, it's a new year, it's a new me, and put 2020 behind us. But I think as we look towards this year, a lot of us are struggling maybe for motivation. Perhaps we're still feeling some remnants of feeling burnt out, and maybe we're also looking ahead. We're probably realizing that this COVID thing's not going to go away, just because it's a new year. So yeah, I think it's nice to share what we've personally had on our plate over that break. And yeah, what I'd love to chat about today is, as people are starting to think about going to work in the office, in the offices, and I'm in the city today, and we've seen more people around, which is great. But through our clinics and through chatting with a lot of people, they probably don't feel that as fresh as they hoped. I'd love to hear from you, Nat, as to while I'm hearing that, is there any sort of, what's your take on that? Like, have you had the same experience with other people at the moment?
Absolutely, Tom. We were so fixated on that Christmas line, that New Year's line, that it just got thrown yet again. And, it was like a real, that was a vision for many people, just like, if we can just get to that. And yes, I think we spoke about that in our Christmas webinar, didn't we? Our chat that, it's not, we think that come New Year's Eve, it's going to magically go away, where ironically it actually whacked us down really hard. So it really has that element of we can't control what's going on, but we can certainly control what's going on within our family. And I think that we just need to recognize that we may not, that we don't need to seek control from external resources, but we can do a lot within ourselves. And yes, I completely agree that I suppose we had this expectation that we were going to be able to have family and relax, and things were going to get to a level of normal. And then, the government again in Victoria, especially, they changed, how many people could go back to the office. So they started with that 50% capacity. And then it obviously then just ignited a lot of other unpredictability, anxiety, worry, trauma. And very much a lot of burnout, again, within employees, within teams, within managers, on how we are going to tackle 2021. So firstly, we've been talking to a lot of people about, the importance of reflection. What have we gone through? And let's not look at it with, just with either rose-colored glasses on, or not look at it at all. There were some pros and there was some cons of last year. But it's really important to reflect, because there was some silver linings for a lot of people, and they didn't actually realise that. When we look at the surveys that came out from last year from Superfriend, that, a lot of people did value not commuting. But it's what you can then do in that time, as well, as that if you don't commute, or what did you get out of that commuting time? Did you get a chance to read a book? Did you get a chance to, go and exercise instead? Those are the kind of things to go, well, actually, I was forced to create a different habit or a different ritual. Let's keep that going, because that actually did work for me in 2020. So it's really important to take that through and to keep up the things that did work for you, because that was really that element of control that we may not have recognized. So that's a really important aspect to start with. I go on a lot about growth mindset, a lot. And, the way we can learn is by learning around, looking at how people are interacting and socializing, how people are even dealing with certain challenges, what kind of tools and strategies are they using, and develop that yourself and take on that knowledge and never be afraid to ask. And, I always go on about saying, it's really important to hang around substance people that ignite your passion, ignite your creativity. And we see that a lot in work colleagues, and we haven't had that in 2020. So that's a real point about getting back to the office, even if it is for a couple of days, depending upon your organisation, is that it really does lift you up. And to have that part of your growth mindset to say, brilliant, okay, I'm getting back to work with Johnny or with Jane, and you know what, this is how they make me feel, and this is how I can develop in 2021 my passions and and my learnings, and see things not as so much as a challenge, but more as an opportunity. And we see well in people, and we've had a lot of it in Melbourne, where leases were up, or they've decided to downsize or change offices altogether. And that can be really daunting for some people to go, oh, now I've got to go on a different train line to get to work, or I've got to go and I don't have my creature comforts that I was used to. We need maybe to start afresh.
Yeah.
But what can I do? How can I take that in? Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to get Johnny or Jane, and we're going to go each lunchtime. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to go find a new cafe. Or, I'm going to be able to bring different colours into my office this year to ignite a different spark, so we can change our mindset. It doesn't always have to be, I'm thinking negatively, therefore I can think positively. It's about how can we change our thinking and our language to create, more development within ourselves. And that just then takes down that fear. We can have a go, put ourselves out there a little bit, because a lot of people are very focused on going back and catching public transport and how that's going to look. How's the office going to look? What rules do we need to have? It's quite overwhelming for some people.
Yeah, I think as well with people now going back into the office, or whether that's been just coming in for a day or a couple of days over the last 2 weeks, maybe people are thinking, I'm going to get my old routine back up at work, because that's what I used to do. And I feel like that's what I've seen with some of my team as well. And it's kind of, if you change the way you look at it and go, cool, this is literally a fresh start. So, how do I work in my role, and what can I bring from 2020 that was quite cool, like the flexibility, like you could just come into work twice a week and hang out with people that energize you. Do your sort of your collaborative work then, and then use that flexibility for those other few days to maintain your motivation through this year. But definitely there's definitely a challenge in creating this hybrid habit now of going to work, but keeping your flexibility and keeping all the good stuff from last year.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be every day, I suppose, as well, that we do. We have to really recreate our schedules, and what that then looks for us. But we do have the opportunity to create that to our advantage as well. So having good managers that can offer advice, and that can also celebrate how their teams dealt with last year, which is really good. We don't want to. The last thing we want to do is write off 2020, as everyone's about. I want my money back, and get 2020. What are the learnings? It's about reset. And a friend of mine the other day said, it's 2020. It's like, that was the vision, of that the insight and our reset. And it's like, that's actually got a point as well. So what can we do that goes forward that maybe wasn't working for us in the future, and how can we then change that? So it takes that time, I suppose, coming back, reflect on your day, write things down, write a journal, write, have that visual in front of you, because that clear visual about, what worked for you, what didn't, and then what can you do now, and let's give it a go, is going to increase that level of motivation. Is going to give you the courage to try.
I love it. Yeah. So it's reflecting and then testing out new ways of doing things and finding that new habit to maintain your motivation. That's great. Nat, is there anything from with other strategies that people could potentially look at the moment for keeping their work fresh? Yeah. What else you got?
But one thing I just I couldn't handle is as soon as I opened up, obviously had a few days over the Christmas period, and then looked at my emails and just went, wow. Ooh, it was like about a good 400 emails that I know that I don't really want to categorize. So I just, I created a folder saying 2020 emails. I didn't throw them out. I know they're there, and I just it's all about, having a clear laptop, is amazing even for the psyche. Little thing, change your background, delete all the catches on your email, like clean up your drop boxes, have everything, have a clean start. And it is even provides a level of motivation, because every time you're thinking, oh my goodness, there was those things, that just ignites that was a really stressful time. I put it all in a little 2020 folder, so they're not going anywhere. You can always go back, you can review it, but that would just give you that fresh start feeling. And one thing that I suppose Anthony, my husband, and I have been really quite mindful of in the last 2 weeks, the cogs starting to turn again, is the muscle, the brain is a muscle, and it's like if we haven't run before and all of a sudden we put ourselves into a marathon and we try to flog ourselves to do 42 Ks, more often than not, we're going to fail. It's really important to not throw yourself right in the thick of it straight away, and have really some great stop-start routines, just so the brain can get back into firing on all cylinders. It's okay. We don't need to go back right into where we were at end of December. And I know it was very busy for so many people. We don't need to have that level straight up level of speed, at Jan, early Feb. We can work our way up to say, okay, I can get to capacity, by the end of February, like give yourself a little bit of a timeline. But we find that those stop starts are a little bit easier to say, we're going to turn that computer on, at around whenever X time. And at the end of the day, we're going to turn off our computer and we're going to give ourselves that little bit of a break, just so the brain can pick up, because more often than not, if we throw ourselves in, the burnout's going to creep up very quickly again.
Yeah, I love that one. And just to throw my sort of habit in there is, it seems basic, but turning the computer off. A lot of people just leave it sort of humming away, and my phone as well, just turning it completely off, and not taking it into anywhere near your bedroom. I think people, I was chatting with Dr. Christy Goodwin about this. She's a digital wellbeing person. She was saying that a lot of people, like most people, open up their phone as the first thing they do for the day, and it clearly sends you down a rabbit hole of emails and notifications. So adding to that, I suppose a little personal anecdote from me is just literally turning it off, because it then does provide the stop, start, stop, finish to your day, and that probably makes you feel good as well when you finish, like finishing something.
Yep, there's nothing worse time in the morning if you do have your phone next to you and all of a sudden you have that email that you're like, oh, this is going to take so long to do, and oh, that's just, I don't have time to do that today, and all of a sudden you've got the wrong mindset to start. Whereas if you can have like a 15-minute ritual, which is no tech related, it's just a far more cleaner start to the day. And if you're a coffee drinker like myself, getting that first cup in before you look at your phone, visual as well.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. And with a lot of people as well, for motivation, they tend to do a lot of goal setting at the start of the year, or they create long lists of things to do. Do you have any recommendations around sort of, if you're someone that likes writing down lists and stuff, is there any techniques that you suggest to kind of facilitate those boundaries as well, or that feeling of finishing?
Yeah, look, we do a lot of work in that time management area, and getting the short, medium, long-term goals set out can be very helpful and can give you a level of priority and what you should and shouldn't be focusing on first off. But, like at the same time, and Sash, my business partner, goes on about this a little bit as well, as, developing a word for yourself. So, our word this year is smarter. We've created a word. And so, like, whenever we do our set outs for the company this year, we've got the word up top saying smarter. So when we set our goals out, it always then at the forefront going, okay, well then how can we be smart when we are setting out these goals? Like, how do we achieve those? And I remember the good old essays that you used to do in year 12, and they always used to make you do that plan, Tom. And, I never used to love that plan, but now I understand it a lot more.
Yeah.
You write the goal, and then you have, I suppose, a little bit of, some areas where you can, separate that goal into smaller tasks, and that can be really that feeling of accomplishment and achieving, and therefore that motivation. It can be great if you can even break down some of those goals into the smaller tasks, and once you can then tick them off. So a checklist is really good like that, especially right now. That we can it's basically it's a phenomenon called completion bias. So our brains can see that we're ticking something off, that we're feeling like we're getting somewhere. And I know, because as we talked about, those cogs can be pretty slow at the start. That's one way that even if we're trying to set up those goals and those tasks, we break them down and then we tick them off. Yes, we're getting somewhere. We feel good. We've achieved something for that day.
I love that. I'm definitely a list person, but, I tend to use the 4 quadrants every morning. That's my thing. And I write down, what really am I going to get done today? And my lists are so basic that if you looked at it, you'd be like, geez, not doing much today. But I feel like the list, if I actually list what I want to achieve, the list is too long. And then I'm kind of always asking myself, well, what's the most important thing, most impactful thing I could do today that aligns with the goals for the business and the quarter as well. And as you were saying, kind of theming almost your year in business. A lot of the time you're theming your quarters, but there's no reason why you couldn't theme your personal goals as well, like your self-care goals for your own for your own self. It could be something like, move smart or something, or I don't know, something else to maintain your mental health as well throughout this year.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely. And that's really important, is that even what I've noticed, even within myself, that even if you can get 20 minutes in of just say exercise or self-care, really became the forefront last year and is certainly moving throughout 2021, a very important aspect, then that's great. So not the expectations, as you just said, like so high to go, I need to train for an hour and a half a day, when you might be going back in the office that day and you then don't have time, and that's then going to whack your stress up. So we don't want that, so that's where that, I suppose, those goals, the timetabling, the calendaring can be really, okay, well, I am going to the office that day, so what is going to be realistic for me to do in regards to self-care? Or does that self-care change for that day to, I might listen to a podcast on the way home, or I might pick up a really good book that is only for the train. So something that can be, doesn't necessarily need to be physical self-care. It could be spiritual self-care, or it could be, social self-care as well.
Yeah, I love it. And with this year ahead, it's obviously, nothing. It's always going to be a little bit unpredictable with when's your next holiday kind of thing. But would you recommend people map out maybe some, the next 12 weeks, and then at 12 weeks, dedicate some time in the diary to either rest, movement, something to look after yourself, or a holiday, or a weekend away? What's your approach or advice there?
Well, the first thing I want to say to everyone is book a holiday now, because it's something we can look forward to. We came back and we've hit the ground running. We're like, well, now what? Where do we do now? Where do we go? And when we don't have when we don't have a goal in mind, or we don't have a vision in mind right now that we're not working towards it, again, that's going to affect our motivation. And book a holiday, and obviously we're going to be working in our backyard and holidaying our backyard probably for the rest of the year. I would say that's probably conservative. And but that's not to say that we can't book some things, or even, if you feel that you're on a budget, house swap. That's actually becoming really popular as well. If you know someone interstate, we've got awesome roads. We can get around without having to jump on planes as well. But that's really important because we want to be able to look forward to something, and that is just as important. And again, that obviously might have changed a few people. We might not be having the Mexican trip this year.
Yeah.
We were actually supposed to be going to that in October. There's no way. So you've got to basically have something you can look forward to that is going to be able to get you to that point. And that can also then help with those short-term goals. Brilliant. So at the end of February, I'm going to be going away for a weekend. Awesome. So within that time, this is what I'd like to achieve. And then you look at, are they achievable? Okay, can I break these down into small tasks? What can I do today? So it's that is going to really drive our motivation as well there. And it doesn't have to. I've been doing a bit of reading on what constitutes rest. There's actually 7 signs to rest. Like it's 7 different types of rest, which we don't really, I suppose, acknowledge enough. And I think this year is that's also a very important component, is that when we may not have felt physically rested over this time, but we can certainly take those snippets where we can obtain, it's not solve that good old parental burnout, which was spoken about before, but it's just going to give you that time out. And that can be through meditation. It can be through using, mala beads. It can be through exercise, good nutrition, or, doing like having a bit of a decent, kind of detox of some description over a weekend. Then it can also then be, spiritual rest and really getting yourself involved in nature, or going to even a silent retreat over the weekend if you can get so much away for a weekend. It can just be even sitting at a beach, and having that time and journaling, and finding a place in the park or in a certain forest. Just even the journaling is great as well, because that can actually then spark creativity. And
I love that. I suppose with rest, most people think I need to get X amount of hours of sleep, and when they don't, they feel like, gee, I'm not doing a good job of sleeping, and then they end up in this cycle of feeling shit about themselves, when in fact there are other ways that you can technically rest and restore yourself, I suppose, in some ways. And as a parent with a couple of little kids, I'm awake. I feel like I'm awake at least twice a night with, different things happening. And for me, I tend to put in little micro breaks in my day. So before I went down to the other centre in Collins Street, and I did some meditation on the way on the tram, and it was 10 minutes, but I felt great afterwards. And then that kicked me into my next meeting. So probably, I reckon with COVID and everything, we probably can see the value in just doing those, like small breaks as well, small micro habits, small holidays, probably acknowledging that you don't need the big overseas holiday. While it would be nice, but you can enjoy and be grateful for what you have in your backyard, or if it's a weekend away, that's probably a good, that's quite good.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at my wit's end on Friday afternoon. It was a big week last week, and my muscles and my brain are still ticking up. And I just said to Anthony, I'm like, let's just get out of the city and let's just go down the hot springs. And the boys are loving it. I had to tell them a few times, don't bomb people like in the water. But it's amazing. It was something that. It was a little bit different. The boys got a lot out of it. It was good for your body. But I just didn't want to I felt like I just wanted to come home and sleep, but I knew that wouldn't have been rested. So it was a complete different way of resting that was enjoyable, and it was part of the family. And it was, 4 or 5 hours, but I really felt that just pumped me for the rest of the weekend, and I re-energized myself. So there is a huge value in that. And social rest. Social rest, if you can create hanging out with some people that really fill your bucket up and pump you up, even, once a fortnight, catching up in some way, like it could be a walk, a coffee, a breakfast, doesn't always have to be food related, but hike, bike ride. It is just, it fills your soul. And that alone just makes you just feel so good. And that's also part of rest. And that's what we also see at work. Everyone's going to then have that option again to reconnect socially, explore if there's some new experiences and surroundings, explore that. And that again within itself constitutes rest. So we will heal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and a lot of people have their work buddy that they always gravitate to. And I saw someone this morning, and it looked like a couple of work buddies having a coffee just near NAB, and they were like absolutely pumped talking to each other. And I could kind of tell they haven't seen each other for probably 6 months. And I could overhear them. They were just talking about how much they were sick of Zoom and stuff like that. So yeah, just getting around people that energize you and make you feel good is a great tip. And Nat, I think you've covered off on some amazing advice there. Probably one thing I wanted to ask you is, motivation. Like, these are ideas and strategies for sort of, we call this hacking your motivation, but I suppose in some ways motivation is really cool as for a week or so, but then it does die off, right?
Yeah. It's about trying to be realistic and be really gentle with yourself. Like, these are all great tips. Please don't get off this and then start to write them all down and try and do them all tomorrow. That's not the point. The point is that we can create that level of control. Everyone's going to be doing it at a different pace. What it is just start. Like it's more that if you want to start creating a calendar, but yet that's a bit overwhelming, just go and buy one. Like you've done one little thing that is going to is steering you in the right direction. If you feel really overwhelmed with work, ask your boss, just to start, can I just come in for that one day? Or is there an opportunity that I can avoid the busiest time of catching a train because that's making me feel really uncomfortable? If we've got managers out there that are going to be really flexible and understanding and empathic, that a lot of workers are not always going to be so gung-ho and not always going to be those NAB colleagues that are super excited to see each other again. And just be really mindful that not everyone's up there yet. It's going to make people feel less intimidated that they need to kind of be at a certain standard, socially, productively. I don't like to use the word, but a lot of people are being quite traumatized, and it's a reset and people don't really know where to start. All I'm just saying is just start. Take one of these ideas and start it. Best one, probably book a holiday. You've got something that's quite, there's something that you're working towards.
That's it. And what I've been saying to a lot of our staff is in the last week or so is just that, all your feelings are valid. If you're still feeling a little bit, angry perhaps, or you feel like you've missed out on a year or disappointed, they're all valid feelings, but it's all about, firstly becoming aware of it and really reflecting on it, which was your first point. Thanks so much for your time, Natalie. I think it's been really a really nice discussion, and I suppose if anyone has further questions, they can directly contact us both for any advice or perhaps a chat about their workplace and what ways that maybe Connect Site could help from a mental health perspective. So thanks so much and have a great afternoon.
You too, Tom. You too. Okay, take care, guys. Bye.
See ya. Bye.